Time now for another episode of How Is This a Thing? And we'll begin with something very interesting. This article is from the Sydney Morning Post, but it's from April 27th, 2003. Farce mask. It's safe for only 20 minutes. Retailers who cash in on community fears about SARS by exaggerating the health benefits of surgical masks could face fines of up to $110,000. New South Wales Fair Trading Minister Reba Maher yesterday warned that distributors and traders could be prosecuted if it was suggested the masks offered unrealistic levels of protection from the disease. I'm sure everyone would agree that it is un-Australian to profiteer from people's fears and anxieties, Ms. Maher said. There appears to be some debate about whether surgical masks are able to minimise the effects of SARS. Ms. Maher said her department would investigate any complaints about false mask claims which concerned the public. Penalties can range from fines of up to $22,000 for an individual or $110,000 for a corporation, she said. Health authorities have warned that surgical masks may not be an effective protection against the virus. It's incredible, isn't it? There was a time of sanity, when you could get a fine for making false claims about the effectiveness of surgical masks to stop a virus. Now you can get a fine if you don't wear one in certain settings. You see, this was 17 years ago, and it was back before pseudoscience had taken hold in the medical industry and our culture, and also back when the mainstream media were a bit more honest. But today, the COVID hoax is being pushed in order to bring about the Great Reset and a global technocracy. So, obviously, the truth has to be overlooked today. We saw this recently when the World Health Organization decided to redefine the term herd immunity. Anyway, the article continues, "Those masks are only effective so long as they are dry," said Professor Yvonne Cossart of the Department of Infectious Diseases at the University of Sydney. As soon as they become saturated with the moisture in your breath, they stop doing their job and pass on the droplets. If only you could tell that to people on the streets right now, walking around with face nappies. Professor Cossart said that could take as little as 15 or 20 minutes, after which the mask would need to be changed. But those warnings haven't stopped people snapping up the masks, with retailers reporting they are having trouble keeping up with demand. By the way, in the early parts of 2020, the medical experts like Anthony Fauci were all telling people that masks were largely ineffective, and then suddenly changed their tune saying that they worked all of a sudden, as if new instructions had been issued to these experts and they all started parroting the same script.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
Well, flash forward to Ireland today. This article is from breakingnews.ie. Dr. Tony Holohan advises people to wear face masks outdoors. We always knew this was coming. The face hijab is to be made compulsory just for leaving your house. The chief medical officer has encouraged people to wear face masks outdoors to try to stop the spread of COVID-19. Taoiseach Micheál Martin says everyone should wear one when they're out, but there are no plans to make it compulsory or introduce fines. Hint, hint, in other words, there probably will be plans to make it compulsory and introduce fines eventually, but first the public have to be softened up and primed to the idea in advance. This has been the strategy of the propaganda and hypnosis throughout this entire scam. And to be honest, I can see this being largely complied with in Ireland. I was in town on Saturday, and the amount of people wearing masks walking around, people of all ages, it's unbelievably widespread. It's shocking. A genuine magic spell has been cast on the public, and their minds are simply gone. Okay, they're on autopilot. I don't know what's going on inside most people's heads anymore. It's like the programming goes in and that's that. Garbage in, garbage out. Moving on. This article is from the BBC. OECD, lockdowns here to stay even with vaccine plan. More lockdowns and social distancing, even with a global vaccine rollout in place. That's the sobering forecast for 2021 from Lawrence Boone, the chief economist of the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. We probably have another 6 to 9 or 12 months of this ahead of us, she told the BBC's Talking Business Asia programme. So much for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Never let them set a precedent. As soon as you comply once, you set the precedent for more compliance. You never surrender your rights and freedoms, because you won't get them back so easily. So much for the vaccine being the apparent exit strategy and the solution to all our problems, right? Again, your narcissistic overlords can't be appeased. The more you comply, the more they will continue to keep pushing you. There will always be just one more thing that they need you to do, one more mandate to be complied with. You're led to believe it's temporary, but of course, their goal is to torture you forever and get you, through fear, to gradually be conditioned to behave in an entirely different manner that strips a person of their dignity and humanity. Moving back to Ireland, Gardaí, that's our police force, can now hand on-the-spot fines of €100 to anyone breaking 5-kilometre travel limit who refuse to turn back. Gardaí can now hand out on-the-spot fines of €100 to people who are found travelling beyond the 5-kilometre COVID travel limit and refuse to turn back. From today, Gardaí can prosecute breaches of travel restrictions introduced during Level 5 with a fixed charge notice. How did we get here? How is this a thing? Garda headquarters this evening announced that a person who breaches travel regulations and fails to comply with an officer's directions can be prosecuted. This includes an on-the-spot fine of €100, but in other cases, directions may be taken from the Director of Public Prosecutions. Gardaí have escalated their policing response after beauty spots across the country were packed over the weekend with visitors outside of their 5-kilometre limit. Please tell me who died! What actual crime was committed here? People were enjoying the countryside. Please explain how that translated into other people dying somewhere. This is insanity. When are Irish people going to stop complying with this? Do not pay these fines. Do not go along with this. Open your bloody businesses or it's over. Stop taking this government money. It comes with a serious price. And that is to increase our national debt enormously so that the debt can never be repaid, so that then the Great Reset can be justified. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The fixed charge notices can now be handed out under Emergency Health Act measures which state that a person shall not leave their place of residence without reasonable excuse. Apparently, the excuse that I'm a free and sovereign individual with inalienable human rights to come and go as I please is not a reasonable excuse when you're living through a totalitarian police state takeover. Let's change gears for a moment and focus on a completely different subject and a positive news story. I think we could use one. This article is from Breitbart. Poland to pass law protecting online free speech against big tech censorship. Poland's national conservative government has detailed a new law protecting free speech online against big tech censorship, backed by a new court and big fines. God, I love the Poles. Minister of Justice Zbigniew I'm not going to pronounce that. Has announced the draft act for the freedom to express one's views and obtain and disseminate information on the internet. Will give social media users a statutory right to appeal bans and content removals on social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter, which they will be able to escalate to a new court for the protection of freedom of speech in a streamlined all-digital process. If the new court rules that the tech censors have removed accounts or deleted posts for speech which is legal under Polish law, they must be restored, or the social media firms involved will face fines of as much as €1.8 million enforced by the Slavic country's Office of Electronic Communications, according to reports. Now that's more like it. That is a much better way to go about dealing with censorship. Much better than the complicated, drawn-out Section 230 type solution in America that can easily backfire and, potentially, expose small social networks to lawsuits. I think the big Silicon Valley tech firms actually want Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act to be reformed, so as to simply bypass the conversation as to whether they are a platform or a publisher. They want to be regulated by the government in America. It's in their interest. But in this case, Poland's solution is to simply fine social networks that remove legal speech and illegal content from their platforms. It was some time ago that Styx Hexenhammer suggested something like this, and he was absolutely right. What is needed is an Internet Bill of Rights when it comes to the free speech of the individual online. Finally, it appears in another bizarre twist, my YouTube channel, Computing Forever, has been reinstated, at least for now. Honestly, I'm completely over this, and I'm not interested in these games anymore. I had made my peace with the banning, and now the channel is back. It actually surprises me how much I no longer care about YouTube. I don't care that it's been reinstated, and I won't care when it gets removed again, which it will soon enough. Banned, reinstated, banned again. It's all nonsense, childish and tiresome. I'm not playing around anymore because I don't need to. Right? I've moved on and closed the door on YouTube. I've been so badly treated by them at this point, and I'm happy to be focusing on alt tech. It's a lot less stressful, I can tell you. I don't actually need YouTube anymore. In fact, my previous video generated roughly the same number of views that I'd get from YouTube when you combine all view counts from Odyssey, Minds, Gab TV, and BitChute. And I especially don't need the constant hassle of worrying about censorship and algorithmic throttling. I'm sick of their moral pontificating and finger-wagging as to what is acceptable content and what isn't. I'm sick of being treated as if my ideas and my point of view is somehow problematic. I refuse to self-censor or modulate my speech, and I don't need to. Censorship is simply unacceptable. And they've removed a dozen of my videos on YouTube because they claim I'm guilty of spreading medical misinformation, like they're somehow judge, jury, and executioner, and maintaining this arrogant, sanctimonious idea that I'm not permitted to disagree with the World Health Organization. Like, I'm not allowed to challenge authority. Forgive me for swearing, but who the fuck are the World Health Organization to determine what people are allowed to say about medical science? I have a different view on COVID, and I'm entitled to it, and I'm entitled to express it. I didn't vote for the World Health Organization. Did you? I don't need them in my life. And quite honestly, fuck YouTube as well. To hell with them. To hell with what they've become. No doubt the channel will be removed again on YouTube, and I couldn't care less. I've gotten what I need out of YouTube, and now everybody knows how to find my work. On alt tech, I can be myself, I can be uninhibited. I'm unrestrained by absurd wrong-think community guidelines that are designed to be sufficiently broad and vague so as to be selectively enforced on a whim. And it's quite tiresome to be on a platform that can suddenly move the goalposts at any time. The alt tech revolution is here, and my engagement on some of these platforms is fantastic, comparable to YouTube and growing fast. YouTube, it's too little too late. Goodbye and good luck. All YouTube is good for now is posting trailers for videos that can be found on alt tech. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all your continued support, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.